Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we'll talk about all things Disney,
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in news and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when the only Norwegian cruise we'd been on was Maelstrom.
This is episode 39, Disney versus Norwegian. Which cruise line is best for you?
Or, the mouse meets the Viking in an epic battle for victory on the high seas. Who will reign supreme?
So now, please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcotian adventure. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 39 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And we're sick. Hey!
Yes, we are, because the best souvenir to bring home from a cruise is a head cold.
Yay! I just love head colds from going on airplanes after a long cruise, which we just completed on the NCL, or the Norwegian Encoure, from Seattle to Alaska.
We did. This was our first, probably our last Alaskan cruise. They are not cheap to do, but what an incredible journey that was. So we just want to, even though it's not Disney related, we want to tell you about the NCL cruise, the NCL Encoure, and because we have been on Disney Wish, we want to do a little compare and contrast.
Yeah, so this is going to be our take on this cruise ship, and then we're going to basically break it down and say, hey, here's the differences between NCL and Disney Cruise Lines.
So we'll hit a few of those as we go along on some specific differences. And then toward the end, we're going to kind of sum it up and do a more generalized comparison so that if you are trying to decide if Disney's worth the money to be so much more expensive than a Norwegian cruise, we're going to help you try to figure that out for you.
So some of the basic similarities, both are cruise ships. I mean, both the Wish and the Encoure are the largest of their class.
They are. We actually got some specifics on those. Just because we're kind of numbers nerds and we find that interesting. So hopefully you do too. So the Encoure is the one we just got off. The Norwegian Encoure. It was built in 2019. It is 169,000 tons.
That's a big boat.
I mean, come on. That's just insane. And it floats. What? So it is built for 4,000 guests and roughly 1,700 crew members. Contrarily, the Wish, the Disney Wish, its newest boat so far, was built in 2022. It is 144,000 tons. Still ridiculous, but smaller than the Encoure.
And also still floats. Weird.
I know.
Yay, physics.
Right? Or magic, because it's the,
that's
the
true,
Disney
yeah.
boat. So. It is also made for 4,000 guests and has a roughly 1,450 crew members. So, like Rod said, these are both the biggest class of their ship, and they feel large. They are big ships.
We spent a lot of time on both boats. Never got to explore either one of them fully, which is amazing to me.
Really, it totally is. You know, I do want to just say real quick, a lot of people listen to that number of being trapped on a boat with 4,000 people. You never feel like you're in the middle of 4,000 people. So if that is one of the things that keeps you from wanting to do a cruise on one of these bigger boats, let me just tell you, it never feels, well, once in a while at the buffet.
Yeah, the buffet, yeah, especially on the embarkation day.
Yeah, that's the only time when it really feels crowded. But there's so many places for people to be. It never feels, neither of us are people.
Yeah.
And it never feels overwhelming. So I'm just going to put that out there. If that's one of the things that keeps you from wanting to cruise, don't let that bother you.
So this last trip for us on the Wish was to the Caribbean. The trip that we just got off of from the Encoure was to Alaska. Both NCL and Disney Cruise Lines do Alaska, the Caribbean, Europe. You can get on both boats in Florida, New York, Southern California, Galveston, New Orleans, Australia, Puerto Rico, Southampton, UK. I mean, all over the world. So this is another thing that we probably didn't mention much about the Disney Wish, is that Disney Cruise Lines is not just exclusively in Orlando. It is all over the world, just as NCL is.
Yeah, I've found recently, even talking to other Disney fans, people who have talked about doing Disney cruises or even done a Disney cruise who don't realize that they are worldwide. It's not just theme park based out of Orlando, like Rod said. You can get on them in all the same places. You can do a Mediterranean cruise. You can do an Australian cruise. You can do, the newest ship is going out of Singapore. So, I mean, they're all over the world.
So let's go ahead and start off with our experience aboard the NCL Encoure. Embarkation day for us was in Seattle, Washington. And Seattle is a big city. So, I mean, going out of some places like New York, if you've gone out of there, or Miami, where the harbors are right in the downtown area, Seattle is very similar to that. So for me, I prefer going out of some of the more away ports, like Galveston, where they're outside of the city. However,
even Canaveral, I'm going to throw that out there, even though they always say that you're leaving from Orlando, you're leaving from about an hour away from Orlando. Is that right?
It's a very good point. Yeah, it's about an hour away, and it is outside the city as well. And yeah, Canaveral feels busy as a port, but getting there, it's not downtown.
Right. Well, and Canaveral, like, that's all they do. That's what the city is there for, pretty much.
Well, and rockets,
Well, yes.
Canaveral, there's something to do with rockets, I think, there too.
Yeah, some little hobby.
Yeah, I think so.
But
SpaceX something, I don't know.
Something, I don't know. But it doesn't feel like you're leaving from a huge city, like when you leave from Long Beach or when you leave from the one you just said.
Seattle.
Yeah.
How quickly we forget.
Right?
But Seattle's ports, there are two different ports. There's Port 66, where we went out of for NCL, and there's another port that Carnival and Princess and other cruise lines also go out of, including Disney. We found that it was very chaotic, but yet once we were inside, it ended up being one of the easiest embarkations that I think I've ever seen.
It was super easy.
Very well organized.
And they had tables set out with coffee and water and orange juice, which was much appreciated.
Yeah, Disney, are you listening?
Right.
Really could use this in Canaveral. Just saying.
Just first thing in the morning to be able to grab that was so, so nice. I do also want to say this was a 7-day cruise to Alaska, hitting ports in Juneau, Skagway, Ketchikan, and Victoria, British Columbia. So we will talk about those as we go along. That is what you're about to hear, is that specific cruise itinerary.
And I think Disney's cruises are very similar to that. The cruises for Disney tend to be 3 to 4 day in the Caribbean, but in Alaska they are 7 day as well, because it does take a lot of time to get up there and back.
I'm going to say for most people it is a once-in-a-lifetime trip, so doing the extended 7-day feels more worth it than hitting several islands in a row that all feel similar. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. A lot of the ports in the Caribbean do feel very similar, especially if you've been there more than once. Whereas Juneau is very different from Ketchikan and very, very different from Skagway. So it was a really interesting first-time look at Alaska. And I imagine on the Disney Cruise Lines it's very similar in port. Let's go ahead and talk about the boat, though, because the Encoure is brand new. It's top of the line. It's not the newest ship, but it is the top of the line of the class it's in, I guess you could say. It's its own class. It's the biggest boat.
Same with the Wish.
Same with the Wish, yeah. And it does show. There's a lot of room to just meander, or if you have a cup of coffee, you can mosey. It really is a beautiful boat. The outside hull is painted by a famous artist who, I want to say it's Weiland, but I don't think it is on this boat.
This one wasn't. I don't know who it was, but it was very pretty.
Yeah, that's one big difference you'll notice between the NCL boats and the Disney boats, is just the look of them. The outside of the NCL boats are all unique and painted by famous painters, such as Weiland. So you have those beautiful seascapes, whereas Disney is more classic in nature. It's the blacks and the golds and the reds. And, of course, the Disney characters hanging off the back. So they're very distinguishable. And you can't miss the When You Wish Upon a Star horn coming out of the Disney Cruise Line boats.
I have to admit I missed that when I was on NCL.
Yeah.
So a couple things to note about that embarkation day. We recommend trying for the earliest boarding slot you can get. You will be notified when you're able to check in, so that when you do that online or on the app, that will determine when you can board, when your boarding time is. So earlier boarding times are better, we think. To me, it added a whole day on the cruise. So that is worth it. We want to recommend, do give the porters your luggage before you board. They offer to take it. They want to take it. I promise you they'll meet you in your room later. Your luggage will be waiting for you in your room. It's fantastic. We saw so many people on this cruise carrying their luggage around that first day.
Yeah, 2 and 3 suitcases pushing them through line to go through security.
Well, and 2 and 3 per person.
Yeah, per person.
So
which you just
whole families
don't have to do.
Oh my gosh. And a lot of people, I think, are just under the impression that you get on the boat and you can go to your room. That is not the case.
Not going to happen.
So most people end up going upstairs to the buffet first, and you just kind of plant yourself with your party. You talk about what you're going to do. You go explore the ship. Anything that you want to have with you that day, put in a carry-on. Something, a backpack, a tote bag, a beach bag, something that you can have with you, your meds.
Or your sister's lounge fly.
Or your sister's lounge fly.
Yeah.
It really does work. So yeah, and medications. If you want to go swimming or use the pool, have your bathing suit in there.
The 2 biggest things, your passport and your boarding pass. Trust me, you do not want to cruise in today's world without a passport. We keep hearing about people that get stranded in countries because they got injured, and the cruise ship just left them there. And that's what's going to happen. And if you don't have a passport, they're not going to wait for you because you stubbed your toe and went to the emergency room. You need to have a plan B, just like we talked about in the early episode for Disney World. Same thing for the cruise lines. Make sure that you have the passport so that you can fly home or fly to the next port if need be. And don't forget your printed copy of your boarding pass, because trust me, when you're in line and you're trying to bring up the app and it will come up because 50,000 other people are getting off the boat, on the boat, or just downtown Seattle, you don't want to be holding up the line looking for your boarding pass online.
Exactly. So make sure you've got those in your carry-on with you, your phone, of course. Stick in a deck of cards or a set of dice, whatever you want to do to occupy yourselves. When you're not up and around exploring the ship, you can access the pools and the hot tubs during this time. Most people don't know that, so they are usually wide open for you and your family. It's a great time to take advantage of those pools. Now, even in Seattle in October.
Yes, exactly. Also, if you do have kids, you might actually look at trying to get a little later in the morning boarding time, simply because by the time you check in and get into the room where you're waiting to board, even if you have Disney or NCL's priority access, you are not possibly going to get on board before 12 p.m. So if you have a 10:30 a.m. call time and you get there and you go through, hey, that was great, we're really into the ready to the, why are we not on the boat? It's because their boat's not going to be ready until maybe around noonish. Now, it's different for every cruise line and every cruise even. We've been delayed as late as 2 or 3 in the afternoon getting on a boat because of extra cleaning that had to occur. Yes. But we've also been on board a boat as early as 10 in the morning because everything was ready.
Now, this particular one, we were on board by around 11. We did have the priority access, which we'll talk about in a second. But just do the math here. There's 4,000 yes. We boarded at 11 a.m. When we disembarked at the end of the cruise, we left the ship at around 9:30. That's an hour and a half to turn that boat over for a whole new group of 4,000 people. It is insane. And
that's why the rooms are not ready when you first get on board.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the rooms are usually going to be ready by somewhere around 2 or 3 p.m. on average. And again, that changes per cruise line depending on when you got in port and when they started letting people on board. But trust me, the crew is working behind the scenes as fast as they can to get those rooms turned over and cleaned, and all of the sheets changed, all of the towels changed, and everything vacuumed and washed down in, I don't know, how many rooms is that? 2,000 plus rooms?
A whole bunch.
And yeah, those cast members on Disney and those team members on NCL are working their little butts off to make sure that the room is ready for you. So please, when you get on board, if you're not used to cruising, don't sit there and go, why is the room not ready?
Yeah, don't do that.
That's why the room's not ready.
But the bars are open.
Which is,
So...
a lot of alcohol, if you get the package included, you've already paid for. So
yeah, just enjoy yourself. Start your vacation. Don't start worrying.
So NCL has what they call priority access, and this is something that you can purchase per room at about $179. Now, that price is possibly going to vary depending on the cruise length that you're on.
And it's per cabin, not per person.
Very, very good point, yes. So when you purchase it, it is for everybody in the room. What it gets you is an earlier boarding time. Actually, you're one of the first groups called to actually get on the boat. That's not actually time at the port. That's time to get on the boat when the boat's ready. It also gets you a $50 spa credit per person.
Which is good on a port day only.
Good point there. Very good point. And those are the days that usually there's going to be more available appointments anyway.
Yes. It also gets you free breakfast room service, which is usually $4.95 a day. NCL's breakfast is a little different from other cruise lines that we've experienced in that usually breakfast room service is very continental. You can get fruit, you can get muffins, you can get coffee. That's about it. NCL's is a little different, and they actually offer eggs and omelets. Very unusual for breakfast on a cruise line in your room. So that is included with that priority access. You also get priority disembarkation, so you can leave earlier or in one of the earlier groups. You get priority if your cruise happens to have a port where you tender into the
port harbor. And that's a big deal. It really is. Because some of those tender lines rival those of the Guardians of the Galaxy lines. So I would just say, even if you don't think you're going to use it, it's actually something I would recommend. I don't know, Sue, would you recommend? Did you think it was worth the value?
Well, I forgot to mention, on night 2, you also get canapes.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, we just kind of have to laugh about this because it was 5 tiny little bites, which is what a canape is. It's like an amuse-bouche size. It's a single bite. And they were just tiny, and it was just, they're fun. It was funny.
It wasn't laughable. It was just, we're not used to that kind of nosh, I guess is the best way to put it. It was interesting. Fine. But that wasn't part of what I felt the value was. For me, it was the being able to get on and off the boats quicker, and the $50 spa credit, which if you are planning to use a spa at all, trust me, NCL's spa prices are beyond ridiculous.
They are.
So $50 off is actually quite a nice thing. So the rooms were ready around 3 o'clock for us. We ended up going up and finding our luggage there within the first couple hours. So again, if you're new to cruising, note that your luggage will not be at your room necessarily when the rooms are ready. They do start showing up over the next few hours, and a lot of times they just put them in front of your door or in the hall across from your door. So you have to just periodically check to see when your luggage is there. Yes, it is a little bit of the honor system, but it's not like somebody's going to grab something and make a run for it on a cruise ship. So
they're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, with 4,000 strangers, you feel remarkably safe in that environment. So
now here's one other thing that we found that was fun on NCL that we also did on Disney, and that was door magnets.
Yes. That's one of those things that Disney's kind of famous for, of people decorating their doors. We had heard about that ahead of time. We were ready for it on Disney. Did not know it was a thing on Norwegian. So fortunately, our sister-in-law prepped ahead. She brought magnets for us. It was awesome. So we had very cute little Alaska magnets on our door.
Yes, thank you, Paul and Jill.
Yes, that was awesome. We loved that. So we had room, very, very specifically, we had room 10784. We finally learned our number, so I might as well show it off. So this was a strategic move on our part, a very deliberate choice. When you are booking your cruise, you can have them select a cabin for you, or you can select your own. We were in a very large party, so we wanted to be sort of all close together. But more importantly, we wanted to be midship, and this cabin put us almost exactly midship, both vertically and horizontally, and you get the least amount of motion in that location. So not specifically that cabin, but that 10 midship is about perfect.
We picked that cabin because the balcony is irregular shaped. It actually is a triangle balcony, which is unusual. So one side of it was longer than the other. It gave us a vantage point to look out straight out on the water from our balcony to the front of the ship. It was perfect. And actually similar to the balcony we had on the Wish.
Yes, and because we were facing the shorter side was towards the front, it allowed us to look out towards the front while still being shielded from the wind. So, anyway, that is our cabin recommendation. It was awesome. Yep. And I'm just going to say, if you're doing an Alaska cruise, you're spending that extra money, you are making it worth it for you, do the balcony.
Just for Glacier Bay.
Oh my gosh. So many opportunities for amazing beauty on all over the ship. But to be able to sit in your cozies with your little blanket on the chair on your balcony was priceless. And that's where we saw the seal play. We saw whales. I saw an otter one day, which I didn't even know was a thing in Alaska. I had no idea they went up that far. I'm used to them at our hometown in California. So yeah. But it was incredible. Get the balcony. And just a little bit more about the room, just in general. The decor was general, boring. I can't remember a single thing.
NCL feels a little upscale compared to like Carnival.
Yes, it was still very nice.
Margaritaville at Sea or some of those, but it's not maybe as elegant as Disney or as Celebrity or some of the others. I find it very nice. It's room-wise, I think room size-wise, about the same.
It was a very nice size room.
A couple of odd things. First of all, I'm going to say the bathrooms on Disney are by far the best in the industry.
Yeah, you can't even compare another cruise line to them because it's perfect.
Listen to our episodes on the Disney Wish for a lot more on the Disney side of this.
Yes, and that is our only 2-part episode that we have ever done because we had so much to say. But that is episodes 16 and 17 if you want to hear our full review of the Wish.
Yeah, I found the beds to be comparable.
Very, very comfortable.
Very comfortable on both the Wish and the Encore.
The main difference, however, is that they would split the beds.
On the NCL.
On NCL.
Right.
On Disney, I got the couch. So...
Yeah, they will not split the bed on the Disney ship. It's the only cruise line we've been on. And we've been on Carnival, Princess, Royal, and Norwegian.
Yeah.
And this is the first time when we were on the Wish... It was the first time that we ran into an issue where they could not or would not split the bed into 2 beds. Brother and sister, I mean, yes, we love each other, just we're not that much. Anyway, yeah, we're close, just not that close. Anyway, so the biggest thing that was odd to me, though, was the storage space. On the Wish, there were cabinets and places to put things everywhere in the room. On the Encore, there was not one drawer to put your drawers in. It was so weird.
Yeah, on the Wish, we kept finding extra spaces, like, as the cruise went along. We're like, oh my gosh, there's a whole other cabinet over here. And this one was the opposite. There was very little space, but it did have a full 2-door sliding door closet, which was nice.
And the closet had little cubbies in it where you could put things.
And there was room under the bed for the luggage.
True.
That's huge.
Both ships had that, which is new. The newer boats have that now. In the old Carnival boats we rode years back, there was no place for your suitcases.
It wasn't
they
a
would
thing.
Just stand up and roll around as the boat went around, the boat motion way.
But I also want to say the bathroom was really nice. There were plenty of shelves in there, and they did have the little shelf railing on there so things weren't going to slide off. And the shower was nice, and there was even enough water pressure to get the shampoo out of your hair. And ladies, I am going to warn you, there is no conditioner on the NCL Encoure.
Yeah,
bring your own conditioner.
Can't even buy it in the gift shop. So,
no, it's very weird. I did read ahead of time, so I knew to bring my own, but I would have been extremely sad if I didn't have that warning. So here's your warning. Bring your own conditioner.
Well, let's talk about my favorite subject, food.
Yay!
So big differences between the Encore and the Wish.
Yes.
Between just Disney and NCL in general when it comes to food. Food options at your buffet are going to be food options at your buffet. They're really good. They're,
quality is good on both.
Quality is fantastic on both. The biggest difference between the two is going to be that the NCL's Garden Cafe is open most of the day. It opens early for breakfast. It closes for about an hour to an hour and a half and reopens for lunch, then closes again and reopens for dinner and stays open into the early evening. Whereas on the Wish, it's weird. It's open for breakfast and into about 1 or 2 o'clock for an early lunch, and then it's closed.
And the times aren't posted. They're not in the app. They're not outside the restaurant. They're not anywhere. You just kind of have to wander up there and see if it's open.
There's one thing we really did enjoy about the Encoure is they have touchscreen monitors all over the boat. They're outside the theater. They're outside every elevator. They're in the hallways. You can walk up to it and touch it and say, I want to see the next showing of the Choir of Man, the Broadway theater show on board. And it will show you when it is and from where you're at, how to get there.
It'll even let you book a reservation time.
Yeah, you can get reservations directly on the touch screens outside the elevator. That's nuts. And Disney had a similar technology, but they didn't seem to take it to the same extent that NCL did. I was really impressed with NCL's technology on board.
And their use of it, their ability to use it, because Disney has that technology. They're just not making full use of it at this point.
I think, and it's a yet. Disney seems to be bringing more and more features on board, like the ability to use a Magic Band type device now to open your doors with. NCL doesn't have that yet. The only other one that has that is the medallion that's on Princess.
Another great thing about Garden Cafe, it is on deck 16 all the way forward. So you have fantastic views of anywhere the ship is. There's a ton of seating. It does get busy around, busy meal times, of course, but there's always somewhere to sit. And
except for when you first get on the boat.
Yeah,
Just
embarkation day is an exception.
Yeah, there is no seating left anywhere. But that's another good reason to be on early, I guess.
Yes. I do want to also call out that there are basics. The pizza is fantastic. I don't know why it's so good. There's always a burger station. There's always a carving station. There's always sandwiches.
And in the mornings, omelet guy.
We love omelet guy. And on either side of all the way forward, there is, on one side there's an Asian station, and on one side there's an Indian station. Do not miss these. They are both fantastic. And they switch out every single day.
Now, this is not to discount the chicken strips on the Wish.
No,
Disney
those are still
is
the best.
known for the chicken strips. So, if we're comparing apples to apples.
Get the tendies on the Wish.
The tendies on the Wish, yeah. Up on board, or up on the upper levels by the pools, you also have some things like a burger bar and a pizza place and stuff like that, and barbecue on the Wish. NCL has multiple places to get food. Whereas
there's over 20 food locations on the Encoure.
On the Wish, it's very different. You have very structured seating times for dinner because they're dinner shows. So you have 3 different venues that you rotate through, and your servers will rotate through with you, which is really nice. On the Encoure, they have 3 main dining rooms, but they all serve the basic same meal at each location every night. So Taste and Savor are across from each other, right below the Manhattan room, which is the main dining room that you would expect to see on a big cruise ship.
So all of these are included, and for us, we enjoy, just our personal preference, we like the NCL way of doing it better in that you can eat whenever you want to.
Some of the venues on board the Encoure, such as Food Republic, are only open during certain hours, though, so you do need to still be aware of the limitations of some of the locations. There's specialty dining, and then there's a la carte dining that can be done without a reservation at places like Food Republic, which is an Asian fusion. They have a barbecue location like that. There's the Local, which is open not quite 24 hours a day, but early in the morning to early in the morning. And they've got just a standard, menu.
We should say that also that the Local is not a la carte. It is included. It's complimentary.
That's true.
And they're open till about 3:30 every morning, and then they open early for breakfast. So they're only closed for a couple hours.
There's an American diner. Looks like a Denny's almost. And in Alaska, since it's outside, it's only open for a couple hours each day for lunch.
I never even saw it open.
In the Caribbean, it's open a lot, at longer hours,
yes.
From what I understand.
We should also mention that the Encoure does have a Starbucks on board. A very traditional, full-functioning Starbucks with a full-functioning Starbucks menu, including the PSL, which I got several times.
Yeah, pumpkin spice everything. I
because
know.
it's October. We will also mention we had the mid-range beverage package, which allowed us unlimited adult beverages up to $15 each. If you got the high-end stuff, you had to pay for it, or you had to pay the difference. This package also did not include Starbucks, but we were able to add it for $129. You have to do it per cabin, not per person. It's $129 per person. But if everyone in your cabin isn't on board, you can't do it.
And we found the challenge exciting. Are we going to drink enough to pay for it?
Oh, we did.
We did.
Challenge accepted. So one of the other deals that we got along with the beverage package, we were able to choose 2 specialty dinings. And these deals come up all the time when you're booking your cruises. Just take a look for them. If you booked without these and then they become available, you can still get them. Just call them and have them add it to your package. It was a great deal. So we chose to do the Ocean Blue, which is upscale seafood. Just quick review. We both had fantastic food here. Cannot say enough about the food or the service. It was absolutely stellar from top to bottom.
It's one of the few places that actually has a dress code on board the NCL boat.
And by dress code, we just mean
pants, no shorts, no ball caps.
You have to have a collar on your
shirt
if you're a boy. Yeah. Ladies is a lot less strict, which is kind of weird. But yeah, just don't wear clothes that you would wear to the pool. The other specialty dining that we chose to do on this one was the teppanyaki, which the restaurant is cleverly called teppanyaki.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I wanted to point out is that the Disney ships tend to have a little more imaginative names for things. NCL is not a themed boat. It is a pretty boat, but there's no theme. Whereas on the Disney boats, you run into Disney music and Disney characters and Disney names.
This is just teppanyaki. But there's no mistaking what it is, and it was absolutely incredible.
So good. Oh, my heaven. I told the chef at the end, it may have been my favorite cruise ship meal of all time. And thinking back, I still think that. That
is definitely... His name was Leo, by the way. Hi, Leo. I know you're not listening, but oh my gosh.
You never know.
You were fantastic. So he was so much fun. Very talented. It was his first day, he kept telling us.
I have a feeling it was not his first day, yes.
But he was very funny, very personable. I just want to put this out here. So if you're going to do teppanyaki, play along. Oh my gosh.
We were so loud that we had people at other tables singing along with us.
But in a good, fun way.
Yes, yes.
Nobody was looking at us, backwards or anything.
Well, it's expected in a Teppan restaurant that you're going to play along with the chef, and he would sing, and he would do the tricks, and he did fantastic food, fantastic performance. But yeah.
And then...
this poor family across from us.
Oh my goodness. Oh. They had... apparently they didn't know what they were in for, because they would sit and very quietly look at their plates while they ate their food. They wouldn't sing along. They weren't watching the show. They weren't participating in any way. It was very sad. Their chef was probably just as good as Leo. I don't know. He seemed fun too. So we sang along with him because his people were not playing along.
I felt so bad for the chef, but I almost felt bad for the family. It's like, if you don't know what you're getting into, why are you spending the money to do it?
Right. Because the Teppan is not cheap. It's the one restaurant on board where if you don't have a specialty dining package, you cannot pay a la carte. You can't just choose, I'm going to get some rice and a little bit of shrimp. That's not a thing. It's all or nothing. So it's not cheap if you don't have a dining credit to use. That said, if you are going to do it. Have fun. Make it part of your vacation. Make it part of the entertainment rather than just a meal, because that's what it's meant to be. And when you do it right, it is so much fun.
Yeah, I have not sang that many stanzas of Sweet Caroline in my entire life. And I loved every second of it.
And for the rest of the cruise, anytime anything was good, we would all start in with, so good, so good. It was just a good time. So shout out to Leo for sure. Do the teppanyaki on the Encore. It is worth every penny you're going to spend.
You can also do Italian. You can do Cagney's, which is a steakhouse. You can do La Bistro, which is French. And one of the highest rated restaurants is the Mexican restaurant.
It's Los Lobos. We've heard it's incredible. We actually had one booked, but we ended up changing that for the teppanyaki, and I'm so glad that we did.
So glad we did.
That's another perk of getting on board early, is being able to change those dining reservations. We had a party of 22 with us, so we were trying to do stuff together as much as we could.
So that is another thing that priority access, though, does gain you, is that ability to make those quick changes once on board, because you're on before the general populace or the bulk of everybody gets on.
We were able to change our dining reservations, and we hit guest relations twice with 0 line. It was amazing. So that's a backtracking a little bit, but there's another great perk about getting on board sooner with that priority access. So let's talk about entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, entertainment, if you've been on the Wish or in any of the Disney ships, you already know Broadway quality shows, the shows on the Wish that are the custom shows, the Seize the Day, Seize the Sea. See, I can see the sea from here.
We can adventure the sea.
We can adventure the sea. That's no. Anyway, a big difference between entertainment on the NCL boats and the Disney boats is not the quality of the entertainment, just the abundance. On NCL, there is a single Broadway show, usually per ship. It used to be 2. But they are down to 1. And on the Encore, it was Choir of Man, which is on the West End right now and also touring. I know it's in Tampa currently. And if you have a chance to see it, go see it. It is amazing. It's a British pub that just explodes with life in front of you. And they actually have people before the show come up on stage, and they have a beer tap. And you can actually go up before the show even starts and grab a beer with the cast. And the cast is constantly drinking beer through the whole thing. And it's really beer. It's not apple juice.
I just find that so funny. Other shows on NCL cruises right now are Kinky Boots, 6, which I am dying to see, and I believe Beetlejuice was playing on one of the boats as well, the musical. So it's going to depend on what you're going to see, but there's always one Broadway show playing on board.
Yeah, on Disney, they have I would say an equivalent show that plays in the Walt Disney Theater. When we were on the Wish, it was called Seize the Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
We just went through this. It's Seize the Adventure. That's right. It was Seize the Adventure. Okay. And on the Fantasy, for instance, it's a fantasy come true. And on the Adventure, I'm sure it'll be an adventure to seize the day come true. I don't know. It'll be something amazing as well.
Disney, are you listening?
But then nightly they change it, and there's shows based on Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Frozen, Tangled. Moana is going to be on the Disney Treasure, from what I understand.
That'll be fun.
Whereas the show on the NCL Encoure is the same show night after night after night, so that they can have more people be able to see the show.
I do also want to say, if you have done a Disney cruise and you're used to having a scheduled time to see the shows, it is not that way on the NCL because it is free dining. So on Disney, you're either seeing the show and then eating dinner, or it's swapped, and those are your 2 options, period. On NCL, you're going to want to make your reservation to see that Broadway show the minute you get on board the ship. And you can do that at any of those touchscreens that Rod was talking about.
And the show does run multiple nights, and also during different times. It can run as early as noon or as late as 10 p.m. for a start time.
So get your party together, figure out when you want to see it, and book those tickets. Also, small minor note, make sure that you have everybody's room number. From the minute you get on board, because you're going to need it to book these things.
Very, very good point. Just print out a spreadsheet with all the room numbers.
There you go. You'll also find comedians and the typical game shows that you participate in. There's trivia every day, and that's for both of these.
Disney does a lot more trivia, though. The Disney will run trivia like 9 times a day.
Yeah, and it's so fun.
And they'll tailor it towards Disney parks and Disney music, and it's a lot more family-oriented, whereas the NCL is more towards,
it was a lot of general knowledge.
A lot of general knowledge, yeah.
But then there were I ran into one afternoon where they were doing cat trivia.
Yeah, weird.
I had no idea what that was about, but we avoided that. Nothing against cats, they're fine.
I think one of the biggest things, though, venue-wise, is Disney's Wish and the other ships all have a stage at the front of the boat where you come in that they do interactive shows all day long, including at midnight. They do a Kiss Goodnight type of show like they do at Magic Kingdom. And they have character meet and greets. NCL, doesn't really have that, but they have smaller venues all over the boat, which is typical for most cruise lines. So they'll have a nightclub, and they'll have a comedy location. They also have one called the Cavern, which is a Beatles-only kind of location that's literally for a Beatles tribute band that plays all the time.
And they did different themes as well. Like they did one where it was featuring, I wish I could remember. I'm not a huge Beatles fan, so I don't know. But it wasn't the same show over and over.
Yeah,
so.
Based on era. They had an early Beatles and then a later Beatles.
There you go.
So like pre-Yoko, post-Yoko, I think is how that is. Yeah.
Some of the other entertainment on board, they do have an outdoor laser tag. It is the largest outdoor laser tag from what I'm told. I'm not a big aficionado of laser tag, but it looks incredible. Great for photo ops. They also have go-karts that you race on the top floor. There is a charge for that. It is $15 per person. And I believe you go around 4 times. And you actually do race. They rank you. So there's also an observation lounge. So if you don't want to play, but you want to watch the rest of your family do it, you can do that as well. It's very, very windy up there.
And in Alaska, it gets really, really cold up there. And in the Caribbean, it gets really, really hot up there.
But always windy because you're on the move.
Yeah, and it's at the top. It's on level 19, I believe. It's like way at the very top.
Yes, indeed.
The one thing missing, though, I found on here was a miniature golf course.
Yeah,
I don't know why
we've been on NCL
ships
before with that, and we loved it.
Yeah, I love the miniature golf course. But they've replaced it with what's called the Galaxy Pavilion. And this is a virtual reality and escape room area that they have built into the newer boats, including the NCL Encoure. We actually did the escape room, and it was called...
It was called the Captain's Quest. That one is also $15 per person. There's a maximum of 6 per room. It takes about, I believe, 45 minutes is what they give you.
Yeah.
It's not a full hour.
It's very kid-friendly. There's nothing scary. It's actually...
Right.
I would recommend having a kid aboard because some of the things that they ask you to do in character is really fun for kids.
It was fun for us, too. We were grown adults, and it was still really fun. So
I think if you were talking a scale of 1 to 5 as far as how hard it is, it's probably a 2. It's not
maybe
difficult.
a 2.5.
Maybe a 2.5, yeah. They have racing simulators, a walk the plank simulator. They have a spaceship simulator where you have a large weapon of some sort. They have a...
Jurassic Park adventure where you're trying to get dinosaurs or get away from dinosaurs. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, a virtual goalie even, so where you can, be, unless you're Inter Pele or whoever the current goalie
the
is.
fire god? No.
No. Thinking soccer here, but...
There we go, yeah. I'm so into the sports ball. Go sports. If you want to do the Galaxy Pavilion, it is a $49 fee to do a day pass. There's also a fee where you can do it for all week. I didn't even write that down because that's just a lot of virtual. Get outside.
Yeah.
But you can also do just $8 a game. That doesn't include the escape room. The escape room is $15 per person. But those other ones that Rod was just talking about, those virtual games, are all $8 per person just to play it once. Our 2 nephews, Connor and Evan, did the racing game. They got to race Ferraris around a track and came in first and second.
Reminded me of the old arcade at Magic Kingdom, the Power Line Company. He used to have a wall of those virtual car games.
Good times. Probably also $8 back in the 80s.
Right.
So, yeah, those are really fun. There's also pools, of course. There are water slides, which are open even in Alaska. All kinds of entertainment you can do. One
of the biggest differences, again, as far as venues go, is Disney has a poolside theater that they do their sail away party from, and they do fireworks from. And Disney is the only cruise ship company that's allowed to do fireworks at sea, and it's all biodegradable, so it's not hurting the sea life. NCL relies more on traditional cruise ship type of entertainment. So they have a casino on board, whereas Disney does not. And
let's also say that the one on the Encoure is smoke-free.
It is. It's one of the first ones at sea to be smoke-free. They actually have reversed it to where they have an enclosed area for people that would like to smoke and gamble. And the rest of it is all smoke-free, which is a huge deal if you've been cruising before and you have to walk through the smoky casino to get to someplace. It's less than entertaining.
So this was a much better way to do that, for sure. Speaking of smoking, let's talk about our favorite bars and pubs.
Let's do that. Oh, my heavens. Okay. Now, the bars are plentiful, thank heavens, on both the Disney Cruise Lines, for adults only, of course. The drinking age is still 21. And on NCL. NCL had one down at an area between two of the main included dining rooms. Between Taste and Savor is a bar called Mix. This was our hangout for the family most of the time, or meeting up place before dinner, no matter where we were going to go on the ship. And, shout out to the guys at Mix. They were fantastic on this boat.
A lot of the guys made friends with Danny, the bartender, and he made their night more than once, so that was fantastic. And you can always remember Mix on 6. All the other ones that we're going to mention that we're just going to call out are all on level 8 midship. Rod, tell them our favorite.
Maltings is a whiskey bar, and it is beyond beautiful. It is old English leather and
smells like power.
Smells like power. Yes. Right off the side of it is a cigar bar.
Sometimes
area.
it does smell like cigar.
And to me, cigar smoke and whiskey go together. And if there was just jazz music, it would have been perfect. But it's not a music venue, but it is a place that specializes in all types of whiskeys and ryes and bourbons. And if you're a big fan of those, of course, you can go to Hook's Barbary on the Wish. A lot of people don't know this, but after the barbers are done, there's a whiskey area over to one side, and you don't even have to go in there for a haircut to actually get an amazing smoked old fashioned. Maltings rivals that and has some of the best. There was a blackberry smash.
Blackberry bourbon smash.
Oh, with bourbon, with fresh blackberries muddled. I'm drooling on myself thinking of this drink. It was so good.
It was incredible. We got that several times. And that is a drink that's on tap, which blows my mind. They had 2 cocktails on tap. Blackberry bourbon smash was one. And then they added in the fresh blackberries, of course. The other one was called a rye and rum, also on tap, and absolutely incredible. I am not a whiskey drinker. All of my brothers are.
I
am. Most of my nephews are. But it's just not my thing until now, because both of those drinks were absolutely incredible. The one con is that it is attached to the cigar lounge. To me, I don't enjoy that. But it's very muted because that cigar lounge is enclosed. If you are highly sensitive to the smoke, you might want to take your drink to go, but I still recommend getting them because it was fantastic. Across the way, you'll find Cellars, which is the wine bar. Several people in our party did wine tastings there and made friends with the sommelier. They had a great time doing all of those. Some of them paired wines and champagnes with different kinds of cheeses or different kinds of chocolates.
I will say it's odd, though, since our families are from Central California originally, and we grew up in wine country. It's so funny to go on a boat and sit in Alaska on a Nassau-branded boat and drink wines from Paso Robles and San Ynez. And it's like, this tastes like home.
Yeah, and Santa Barbara is super popular, too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. And then the other 2 that are right there together on level 8, the Sugarcane Mojito Bar. We didn't actually partake of this one ourselves. We did on our last NCL cruise and loved it, but this time Maltings kind of took over. But I do want to mention that's there because rum.
Why is the rum always gone?
Very nice. And then the District Brew House is going to be your basic pub feeling. Lots of things on tap, lots of sports ball on the TVs. So just want to call that one out as well. It is directly opposite Food Republic on level 8. So now let's talk about the ports.
Yeah, so we started in Seattle. We talked a little bit about that. We did venture out into Seattle. The port where NCL takes off from is just a block from Pike Place. So you can go up and have some fresh seafood, watch them throw a fish. And it's only another about 8 blocks up the hill to the monorail station that'll take you over to Seattle Center where the Space Needle is. So very great location there. Would like to point out there is a Marriott right across the street, as a matter of fact, where some of our people stayed and were able to walk and do everything without having to leave the hotel area much, which is it's a big benefit for Seattle in this case.
So if you want to arrive a day early, stay a day late, that sort of thing, plenty to do right there, right at the port.
So what was our first stop? I think it was Juneau.
It was Juneau, as a matter of fact.
They're out of order in my head for some reason.
This one happened to be my favorite port. We chose to do the Mendenhall Glacier tour. It includes a bus ride out to Mendenhall, trip up to the Visitors Center where you have a fantastic view. But then there's also 2 walking trails, and one of them takes you just a short ways. I think it was 3/4 of a mile round trip, and takes you out to where you can take pictures of Mendenhall, the glacier. And then there's the longer path, which is 2 miles round trip. That's the one we chose to do. It is absolutely gorgeous. We went the first week of October, and the trees were just starting to change. It was just beautiful all the way down there. And then you get up close to the waterfall.
Nugget
Falls, thank you.
Yeah.
And great view of the falls, great view of the glacier. It is just stunning. I cannot recommend this enough.
One thing to note about Juneau, though, is it is further south than a lot of the other cities, meaning that the temperature is going to swing wildly depending on when you're there. We dressed for snow, and it was 55 degrees at Mendenhall Glacier. So, yeah.
He said that our bus driver out there said that it was the first day in about 2 weeks that they'd seen sunshine. And that late in the season, a lot of the cruise ships don't even go because the weather gets so bad. We had fantastic weather the whole time we were there. So what do they know?
Also in Juneau is a skyway that you can take from actually just right outside of the port. I was actually quite surprised at how mountainous Juneau was. It's right up against, the whole city is just right up against the sea line, because right behind it is mountains.
And on that note, you cannot drive there.
Right.
It is one of the few cities that, or capital cities for that matter, that you cannot drive to. You have to arrive by plane or by boat, which I just find fascinating.
Yeah, that skyway was taken by other members of our family, and they really enjoyed it. It does run about $50. They charge you $49 to go up and $1 to come down.
So if you want to climb up there, you can, and it'll only cost you $1 to come back down.
I would have thought they did it the other way. Anyway, Juneau's a great town to get off and explore. It is probably the largest of the towns that you're going to see. I take that back. Victoria is probably going to be the biggest.
Yeah.
But you're in Victoria usually on this itinerary for such a short time that we're really not even including it.
Spoilers, we're not there yet.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. So on day 2, we ended up in
Skagway,
which was gorgeous.
Now, the main thing that people do here, like literally, what would you say, like 80%?
According to them, it was 70% of the people
70%.
that get off the boats take the railway.
And that is the
White Pass and Yukon Railway.
That's
is what
it.
It's called.
The morning that we did it, it was super foggy. And we had also found out ahead of time that they weren't going all the way into the Yukon in Canada, that we were only going up as far as what they call Inspiration Point. So those were both negatives as far as going in, and yet it was worth every penny.
And the sun did start to come out, and we were able to see the valley a lot better going back down the hill. It just goes up and it comes back down. During the bulk of the season, so not October, it does go all the way up into Canada. So if you're looking at taking this excursion, make sure that you have a passport with you. Because if you've only boarded the boat with just other credentials, they will not allow you across the Canadian border without a passport.
Very important to keep in mind. I'll also say that because we didn't go the full route, they do a thing where they stop midway up at Inspiration Point. You pause for just a few minutes, and then you flip your chairs around. It's hard to explain, but it's really super cool. And then you go back down the hill. So it's really, really neat. You get to see on both sides of the train because of that chair flip thing. There's also opportunities, they'll tell you, for most of the trip up and down, you are able to go outside your train car and stand out there like train robbers, like like where you hook the cars together. And it was very cool. It was a great way to get some photos without going through the windows.
And coming back down, we saw Bigfoot.
We did. And thank you, Paul, for taking a picture. That was awesome. But there are gorgeous views.
2 feet high, but anyway.
It was pretty funny. But there are gorgeous views on both sides of the train. Going up and coming down, you're going to have a different view. It is absolutely worth it, I think. It is not cheap. It is, I can't remember, was it like $150?
Almost $200
per person.
It was between $199 and $209 for adults, depending on the time of year.
So it is pricey. We found it to be worth it.
Yeah. Now, Skagway, too, ended up being my favorite port because it was the most quintessentially Alaskan city. or town. It's not a city. I think seasonally they only have about 650 people that actually live there year-round. But it's very explorable. Now, depending on the itinerary you're on, you may be there for half a day or a full day. If you're there a full day, get off the boat and just wander the town. There's beautiful, beautiful jewelry, Native American art, shops of all kinds. I mean, of course, every city that you're going to stop at has Diamonds International and all of the cruise ship owned locations.
Just because you're not in the Caribbean doesn't mean they're not going to follow you to Alaska.
Yeah,
They're still there.
Skagway is one of those towns that has a overwhelming amount of locals run businesses. We would like to give a huge shout out to the Skagway Beer and what was it called?
Skagway Brewing Company.
That's it. Been there since the 1800s.
I believe it has, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It is one of the local places. It's not a chain for anywhere. It's only in Skagway. Highly, highly recommend getting the Alaskan halibut fish and chips.
Yeah, $33 and worth every penny.
Life-changing.
It's actually caught in a town called Haines, about 40 minutes by boat up the river from there, or up the ocean. I should say, from there, in a little sea village. And so it is all local product, and they're a microbrew. They brew their own beers, and yes, they are fantastic.
And you can get a flight. Several of the guys in our group did that. From what I heard, I didn't try any. I'm not much of a beer drinker. But the two winners were the brown. I don't know what that means, but it's the brown ale. And the one called the Smash. Those were the two favorites. So take that for what you will. But you get 4 different kinds to try their microbrew. I got the home brewed root beer. It was served in a frosty mug, little bits of ice floating from the mug thawing out.
Felt like A&W back in the 70s.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so good.
And again, it's from a company right there in Skagway.
Yes. Our server was named Christian. He was fantastic, so shout out to Christian. If you get a chance to go, please visit Skagway Brewing Company. You will not regret it. The other thing you must try in Skagway is the Alaskan fry bread.
Oh, yes.
At Klondike Doughboy.
So good.
Fry bread as big as your face.
Take a churro and run over it with a steamroller, and you have Alaskan fry bread. And,
there you go. Dipped in sugar and cinnamon.
So good.
So good. Definitely shareable. Plan to share with 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, they're the size of an elephant ear.
Yeah. And right next door is Glacial Coffee House, which we also tried, another local company, and they were fantastic. Loved the lattes.
Yeah, so, really, really good.
Another thing to keep in mind, right next door to the fry bread. So you'll see the line. You'll know where to stop.
Yeah, it's very easy to find. That's the nice thing, too, about Skagway is it's a very walkable city, and it's very close to the port.
Next day was Glacier Bay. This is considered a day at sea. It is not a port, so everything stays open. Shops stay open. Everything is open all day, but you cannot use your $50 spa credit if you have that on your thing. And
there's no excursions to the glacier, but you didn't need it. We got within a spitting distance of the glacier. According to people we were talking to on board, it was the closest the boat had gotten to the glacier in weeks, based on how much ice is actually in the water at the time and the environmental conditions as far as, high tide, low tide, where is the fog, all of that can make a difference on how close you can get to the glacier. We were lucky and got right up to it.
It was nice.
We could sit on our balcony with coffee, and actually we did from Starbucks even.
Yep.
That was the most northern Starbucks I think I've ever seen, right next to a glacier. It was intoxicating.
Now, it is brief. Your stop there is a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Basically, you come up the channel, you're surrounded by glaciers the whole way up, and beautiful mountains and waterfalls, and it's stunning all the way up that channel, and then you're in Glacier Bay. The boat will stop, pivot.
Pivot!
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 And then you back out again. So, did it back out? Did it go? I
don't
know.
It turned all the way around and went back out.
Oh, that's right, of course.
But no matter where your balcony is or where you're positioned, you will be pointed towards the glacier eventually. Every cruise line that goes in here will go as far up as they can and then turn in circles for a while and then slowly go out. And I mean slowly. It barely was creeping along. and it was done by design. It was one so it didn't, hurt the environment, but it also was that way so that you could spend as much time in Glacier Bay as possible.
And it is worth it. So make sure, if you are not going to go outside, if you didn't get a balcony, all of that, make sure that you do on this day. Like 100%. I do want to mention that this was the only day that it rained while we were there, which we were not prepared for.
But it made everything
as warm as we were.
It made everything blue.
Yeah.
As far as the ice went, couldn't have been any better.
And it was foggy, and it felt perfect. Just
it really
absolutely
did.
Perfect. You are allowed to go all the way to the bow on deck 8 on this day. That's usually a crew only area, but they open it up to guests for Glacier Bay. So thank you to the crew for sharing your space that day. It was phenomenal. And they also have a table set outside at the bow where they have coffee and hot chocolate and water for tea. They had salmon chowder out there that you can just partake of while you're looking at all of this natural beauty. I personally got a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks and then had them add a shot of Di Serrano Amaretto to it. It was heavenly.
Very nice.
So that is the way that I prefer to do my glaciers. But the whole experience was just fantastic.
Then we ended up in Ketchikan.
Ketchikan.
We were in Ketchikan for about 4 hours, and it took 2 hours to get off the boat and then take a shuttle bus 6 miles into the town.
6 miles equals 17 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, it looked like it was a beautiful city, but we got there and became the Griswolds at the Grand Canyon. We walked off the boat, walked into a shop, bought some stuff, got back on the bus, back to the boat, and we left.
And that was about all we had time for.
Unfortunately, NCL's not allowed to dock in Ketchikan. It's at Ward Cove, which is an old pulp factory
for paper
that
and
shut
such.
down, and that they leased or bought. I'm not sure which. And it's great because NCL's the only boats there, but it's not really great when there's 2 boats and everybody's trying to get on the little shuttle buses to take you into town. So anyway.
So our warning is get off the boat sooner than you think you have to.
So
But the bay was gorgeous.
It was.
It was absolutely beautiful. And the most popular excursion for Ketchikan is the Lumberjack Show. Some of our party did this, and they really, really enjoyed it. They thought it was just a lot of fun.
One thing to note is it's called the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. One interesting feature here is if you are on the Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Cruise Line actually has a special show with this company that includes Disney characters. Only Disney Cruise Line passengers are allowed to go to that specific show with the Disney music and the Disney characters involved in the Lumberjack Show. So for us with the NCL show, it was just the typical show, 2 teams battling it out for a fictitious award. Still a fantastic show. Highly recommend it if you are able to book it too. You have priority on the shuttles. So that is another thing you can look at doing, is booking an inexpensive tour into Ketchikan when on NCL, and you'll actually get into town quicker than anybody waiting to just get the shuttles.
Very, very good tip. So the very last port was Victoria, British Columbia.
Same thing. We were there for 4 hours.
If that. We were supposed to arrive at about 8:30. We ended up being late into port, so we didn't actually dock until around 9:30.
And had to be out of Canada by midnight.
Yeah. So you had to be back on the boat by, I think it was 11. So that is the gist of our actual review. Anything else we want to point out as far as differences?
No, I think we covered just about everything. So, it comes down to which is most important to you. Is it the Disney bubble? Or is it something that's a little more cost-effective? Now, here's a big note, is a 7-day cruise on most NCL ships is the same price as a 3-day cruise on Disney. So
great point.
That's another thing. Is your budget going to be able to allow you to do a 7-day Alaskan Disney cruise? You're going to pay twice as much than you would on any other boat. And on NCL or Princess or any of the others, you're already paying a premium to go to Alaska.
Very
so
true.
For us, Alaska was not going to be Disney just because we can't afford it. We're just working schlobs. So this was the perfect experience on the NCL Encoure. How would you rate it, though, Sue? Who do you think is best between the Encore and the Wish?
Boat to boat, taking out where we were. I overall prefer the Wish because I am a Disney freak. So I love all the Disney touches. Food, however, I'm going to say NCL wins every time.
Surprisingly, I agree with you 100%. I think boat to boat, the Wish is more elegant.
It's just
is
gorgeous.
Disney, so of course for us, being Epcotian, it's going to be, the Disney nerd in us coming out going, oh, this is so cool. However, the food and the service I think was equal.
Yes,
surprisingly.
I agree.
The
Fully
NCL
agree.
Encore staff was fantastic, above and beyond, just like the Disney cast did on the Wish. But food, just the variation and the what you could go get when you wanted to get it.
Yep.
And listen to our episode on the Wish, and you'll understand what we're talking about when it comes to the buffet there. I just have to say NCL is by far, for all the cruise lines we've been on, my favorite. That's non-Disney.
I will agree. I also want to say, if you have never seen Minnie Mouse in her Alaska cruise costume, please look that up, because I don't have a picture to post because we've never done Disney in Alaska, but she is worth Googling. So do yourself a favor and see how freaking cute she is in her Alaska costume.
Before we go, we'd like to give a big shout out to our social media coordinator, Riley Piper, audio engineers Joey Humphrey and Paul Trett, and logo designer Evan Piper. Our theme music composer is Jason Patrick Rowan and is licensed through Pond 5. And of course, thank you, Phoenician.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to rate, review, like, and subscribe. It really does help people find us. You can find us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Epcotian Adventure is a $1,000 brunch production. Thanks for joining us today for episode 39 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And we'll see you in line.
Bye.
So let's go ahead and start off with our experience aboard the Entourage.
The Entourage.
The Entourage.
The Enterprise.
Live long and prosper.